Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Jay, aka Crohn's Boy. Well, I just watched a movie, so thought I'd do this little post. I was watching this movie. It was called 50-50 with Seth Rogan, and my brain started to turn, and I started to remember. I remember how it felt to get diagnosed. You know, and it's funny because every time I don't really take a lot of time to think about how I felt when I got diagnosed. And you know what? Remembering back to the day, I think for the most part, I probably knew that I had an IBD because I did a lot of research before I had my colonoscopy, and I knew the symptoms sort of matched what I was going and where it was going with everything. You know, so I remember after the colonoscopy, I remember the doc walked out and he told me that I most likely had Crohn's colitis. But he told me he wouldn't know for sure until he had the biopsy results. And I got to wait 6 weeks until he found out. I remember my dad picked me up from the colonoscopy and he took me for a ride home. We talked a little bit on the way. I went home. I lived by myself. I did my own thing. I was more of a closed guy. So I remember when I got home, I was sitting there and I actually was dating a girl at the time and she was over. But I remember when I got home, I had an anxiety attack thinking about it, you know. It was my first anxiety attack and my only one to this point. But I remember I was contemplating suicide, and I'm not the kind of guy to think like that, but obviously I wasn't in the best state of mind, that's for sure. But instead of committing suicide, I remember going into my bedroom. I dropped to the floor. I did as many push-ups as I could. I remember just doing so many push-ups because I'm not really much of a crier. I'm much of one of those kind of guys just because of the life I've lived. So it makes you a little bit of a hard ass. But I did as many push-ups as I could. I remember my arms gave out. I hit the floor pretty much when my arms gave out, I hit the floor thinking, you know what? I fell on the ground and I just started thinking, like, seriously, what the F did I really do to deserve this? Like, what did I do to deserve such a bad thing that I was given? But the truth is, you know what, I was a stubborn bastard. I didn't feel like throwing in the towel just to let this disease win. You know what I mean? I didn't want to let this shitty disease take control of my life. And you know what, like I said, I wasn't going to let it win. Got to wait the 6 weeks to hear the doctor actually officially label me, and I remember I was so nervous driving there. I was ripping it down the street, driving my Honda Civic at the time. Actually, I was driving my brother's Honda Civic. That makes it even worse. I have a Honda Civic, but I was driving my brother's Honda Civic. I was driving there. It was such a mess, and I was nervous and scared, just thinking about some of the stuff that was going to happen. And I remember a car popped out, and I just pulled the e-brake or hit the brake or something. I did a 360. I remember I hopped up on the curb, I smoked a parked car, and it almost went through a building window. No shit, like seriously, it was a pretty rough day, that's for sure. Then I hopped in the car, I kept on going, I was able to drive still, the door was pretty screwed up. But anyways, I moved on, went and parked the car, walked towards going to the doctor's office. So when I got into the doc's office, I got to sit down, wait for him. And when he finally came, he walked in, I remember he came in, he told me I officially had Crohn's colitis. He showed me some BS charts about where the disease affected me. You know what I mean? Sort of like the specific regions and where I was suffering from Crohn's and where is it affecting me in my colon, my intestines, you name it. Ultimately, I remember I didn't hear much of what this dude was saying. He was just ultimately rambling a bunch of BS that I wasn't understanding. All that I clearly heard is, "Jay, your life is over." You know, I got to hear that, yeah, I'd probably use drugs and I'd get to maintain somewhat of a normal life, and I'd have some normal days and others more uncomfortable. He told me I might have issues having kids. He also told me that because of the diagnosis, there's a good chance I'd have a better chance, or a 10 times fold chance of getting cancer compared to the most people. So that I'd have to get screened. I'd have to get screened every few years to make sure that I didn't have colon cancer. So, wow, that sure made me happy. That's for sure. So, I know all you guys are probably thinking right now, Jay, where are you going with this? I know this post seems a little depressing for somebody like me. Well, I started thinking about it and I realized I never shared this with anybody before. I think it's really important to tell everybody sort of what I went through, these scary times, whether I felt alone, scared, unsure. You know, the internet never made it better for me. You know, looking at everything and seeing how screwed up things were and how much I'd suffer, and all these people, their operations and having their colons removed and dying and all this stuff never made me, you know, all I seen was negative suffering aspects, not stories of healing and success. But you know what, now I'm going to move on to the best part of my story. I remember my doctor started going over my treatment options. I believe at the time it was Imuran and Humira. And I remember thinking in my head a little bit before I actually answered the dude. I said, "Doc," without using his official name here, I told him I was going to pass on the drugs for now, until I can see ultimately or think about what was best for me in this situation, because at the point in time I wasn't clear of, you know, what I wanted to do or anything at that point in the time for the matter. But now I look at it, it was the best decision that I ever made. I remember going home. From that point forward, for the next weeks to the month, I spent every moment that I could of every waking day on that computer, searching for cures and trying to contact and find med-free people so I can hear their stories. The point of this video is that I know this diagnosis sucks. I really do. I remember like it was yesterday. I don't always remember it was like yesterday because sometimes I forget. But watching this movie today made me really remember like it was yesterday. But you need to think, like, ultimately, I know this sucks right now, but you could really be dead. You could ultimately be dead. Not getting to experience so many kick-ass things in your life, whether it's your friends, family, hobbies, challenges, relationships, having children, traveling, Christmases, Hanukkahs, whatever you want to say, Thanksgiving, you name it. I think sometimes things get in the way, but you can't give up. You need to use your brain and actually search for the results you want. You need to do whatever it takes. You can't just sit down and let somebody else dictate to you what's going to happen with your life if it's over. You can't let anybody do that. Nobody has the authority or the right to tell you how the rest of your life is going to go according to their plan or according to their box of knowledge. So I think whenever you're thinking or you're deciding to try a healing protocol, don't think about how hard it is or that you can't do it, or thinking about how embarrassed you're going to be in social situations. Think about how much value you're going to get when you're med-free, and how much you're going to get to experience because of this. All the kick-ass times you're going to have. You know what? I know so many people all the time, they think that I'm some med-free poster boy in the IBD community. But the truth is I still F up on occasion. I have habits. I do things that I shouldn't. You know, and I think thinking about how bad things were in the past and that I've suffered, they truly and straight up make me realize why I have to stay the course. You know what? Because ultimately it's what's going to give me long-lasting happiness is by staying this course and keeping to what I know is to be right. And you know, sometimes giving myself a little shit kicking to say, get your act together, Jay. Keep it up, you know what I mean? Because some of these things, like, I'm not looking for some short-lived high that's ultimately not worth it. You know, whether that's getting juiced or doing some drugs or over-binging on some crappy food. You know, I definitely know moderation and patience are traits that I'm definitely working on and every day and every minute. You know, the simple truth, guys, is I straight up know I can do this, and so can you. I have no angle to sell you bullshit. I'm just speaking from the heart because I want everyone to know that I also remember how it felt to be down there in the gutter, what some of you are probably feeling right now. And I need to remember it as much as possible, so I cherish my good health and kick-ass life. You know, sometimes I forget, just like anybody else, about, I don't know, what it's like to suffer and how lucky I am to be med-free, that I made some good decisions. And I'm just telling anybody that's out there, Don't let anybody put a label on you. Don't think that things are over, because it doesn't have to be like that. You know, it's complete BS. You control your situation, and don't forget that. Well, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to hit the sack. I'm actually leaving for Mexico in a day, and so that's going to kick ass. But I just thought I'd post this post. I'd make this post just because watching that movie really stirred up some thoughts in my head. But if you guys want to watch it, I think it's 50-50 with Seth Rogan is talking. It's a little bit about his buddy has cancer and he's possibly going to die, and then go through a whole series of events. But you want to check it out, check it out. But it definitely stirred some things up in me. I'm not sure, cause I guess I remember what it felt like to be the patient and be in a hospital. And I bleep and hate hospitals and feeling like everyone telling me things are going to be okay when it's actually not going to be okay if I do nothing and I just go the regular route of expecting other people to solve my problems. The truth is, anybody listening to this, you have to solve your own problem. It's the only way. When's the last time you left your homework on the table and somebody else did it for you without paying them? It doesn't usually happen, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I'm going to stop rambling now. But hopefully you guys have an awesome day. And think about me. I'll be in Mexico.